Was the Ashtabula Police Department your first
Well,
side?
what I was doing back then, after I got out of school, I was taking a lot of civil service exams all over Ohio, just trying to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for about a year and a half or so, and in the first department that called was Ashtabula, and
Wow.
so that's where I landed, and it worked out pretty well because I was at this time back home living in Geneva, and it was close by, so
Sure.
it was a good deal. It was a department, one of the ones that I really liked. And I think ultimately it was a good choice. I really enjoy working here.
Good. I want to get into a couple different things, but one thing is social media wise, I've noticed, especially since the Fern Avenue shooting, this is where the man was in his car and apparently somebody shot the car up and shot him, and he drove away a little distance and expired or was close to it. And that was during the Multicultural Festival, and I remember covering the festival. And all of a sudden, from that point on, which isn't that long ago, it seems like all social media is about keeping eyes on police officers. I see two cars going down this street. I saw this guy, he seemed to be cruiser going, he seemed to be going fast. Anybody knows what's going on? It's like, is what's going on there? People paranoid or?
I'm sure that people are more cognizant of what's going on around the community because of the things that have been well publicized that have been going on. I've noticed that as well, not just even with the Fern Avenue, just even some things that happened before that. I've noticed in the last few months. There's more of that. People posting, "Hey, who knows what's going on?" And it could be something. Oftentimes, it is something really. Maybe we're just going to an alarm drop or something like that. But they're concerned.
Well,
they're worried that there's more, shootings or something going on.
One example I was the other day, somebody said, I hear Saturday night somebody's going to go shoot up the harbor. And then somebody else posts a little bit later, I hear somebody shot up the harbor. So.
That's and oftentimes that's what happens. Recently, of course we had to address
Yeah.
a rumor that was going around, and we did, and that is what happens, with social media and just in general. We know that the story sometimes, as it moves along, it becomes more dramatic.
Snowballs a little bit.
It does at times, and there's not much you can do. That's human nature, and what can you do about that? But we tried to address that particular one because there was a more unusually high level of fear on that one. There was a lot of businesses that were calling.
Really?
There were a lot of, and they were hey, do we have to close up and shut our doors today? And they were calling city council and the manager. So we felt, well, we better get out in front of this one because there was really no truth to it. But we understand people were nervous about it.
At the Multicultural Festival, I happened to waylay city manager Jim Timonere there because there were people asking, should I go to work today? I'm afraid to go outside.
Right.
And he kind of basically, and I hate to summarize what he said, but if it kind of came down to, if you're not a bad guy, if you're not doing drugs, or if you're not involved in that drug culture, your chances of having something bad happen to you are, I guess, less dramatic.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we did have the thing on Nathan Avenue, which was a terrible thing where they got the wrong house.
Right.
So, but.
And that's of course that's an unusual circumstance, and they were. We believe they were looking for somebody specifically, and they were targeting somebody that they believed to be another drug dealer in that incident, and they went to the wrong house, quite frankly. And what he said was very true, and statistics show that the people that are in that lifestyle are more likely to shoot each other and commit violence on each other than on just the general public, for lack of a better term, I guess.
Right.
That's true of any city.
I sometimes I think I'm trying to get my mind around this culture where the buying and the selling of drugs and the violence and the one man that shot the other guy because he thought that he was going to get shot because he didn't bring in the money he was supposed to, or that sort of stuff. So you shoot somebody like that, and inevitably they get caught. So I don't know. It just seems to me that I would be thinking, yeah, I'd like to shoot that guy, but I'll get caught, and I'll probably end up in life in prison. I mean, what's going through their heads? I mean, what do you have any insight into that?
Well, I guess my insight would be just based on what I've been taught and what I've learned over the years, and I guess the thinking from people in law enforcement is that oftentimes criminals really don't think that through. They are often personality types that are more reactive, more opportunistic, and they don't often plan the crime or plan what they're going to do. They just see something in front of them and they react to it oftentimes, which is oftentimes why they find themselves in trouble time and time again. It's maybe a flaw in their personality or their character, but it seems to be consistent with a lot of criminals, and that's what we're told, that's what we're taught anyway. And I'm not a psychologist, but that's the sorts of things that they tell us in law enforcement. So, and it seems to make sense. How else do you really explain how you can shoot somebody, and knowing darn well you're not going to get away, you're going to go to prison. I can't believe it. Well, I'm going to go to prison, so I'm going to do this anyway. I don't think they think of it in those terms, like, oh, I'm mad at that guy, I'm going to go get him, and afterwards I'm like, oh geez, what did I do?
Yeah, it's like you've ruined your life doing that, and I don't know. It just, I guess. It's just a different mindset, and like you said, that apparently their thought process just isn't that worked. Because like Mr. Jermaine Ruth, he's accused of, he hasn't been convicted or anything, but he's been charged in the murder. If he shot this guy up. A couple days later, he turns himself in. It's like
that pretty much sums it up.
I was wondering, what would you say is the percentage of crime in Ashtabula that is drug related, in one way or another?
Boy, I'm not sure what the percentage would be, but because there's a lot of things that may not appear just by the type of crime it is to be drug related, but it is.
Yeah.
A lot of your theft offenses.
That's
a lot of your assaults and things like that. Oftentimes, or I would say the majority of the crime in Ashtabula is drug related and oftentimes alcohol related. But I know you're specifically asking about the drug trade, and that's a lot of the crimes of violence, and a lot of the thefts, prostitution and things of that nature are all tie into drugs.
I think I talked to you once before, like going through Ashtabula Sheriff's Department reports, and it would be like somebody stole my snowmobile out of the shed, and I think it's my daughter because she's on drugs.
Yeah.
So there's an awful lot of that kind of stuff.
We get a lot of that all over it's all over Ohio. It's not it's not even just unique to Ashtabula. There's a real, particularly now a problem with heroin around the state of Ohio.
Which is amazing. Heroin used to be the big expensive drug, and now it's...
Yeah, that's changed.
You had to be Keith Richards to afford heroin.
Right. No, it's readily available, unfortunately. It's cheap, and that seems to be the drug of choice in the last 4 to 5 years. It's kind of shifted away from crack cocaine, and it's more over to heroin. The methamphetamines is still a problem, and that's actually spiked a little bit lately as well.
Huh.
Yeah.
Something we're going to have Nick Iarocci is going to be on the show Friday, and I'm going to ask him about this too. But what do you think? First of all, is this whole drug thing, is it insurmountable? Is it just arresting the people, or I don't know? What is like the possibility of just taking these drugs and putting them like in a state liquor store and doling them out and taking the criminal element away from it if people are going to use it anyway, just to get all of the thefts and the violence and all that sort of stuff?
Right. Well, I'm not sure how that would play out.
I don't either, but that's why I'm asking.
I've heard both arguments. for and against, and I've heard good points on both sides, and I'm inclined to lean in the direction of not legalizing a lot of these drugs. You know, particularly the hardcore drugs. I can't see any benefit in legalizing heroin or crack cocaine or things of that nature. And then then the debate is often surrounds marijuana. That's usually
Right.
where you hear that discussion, and that's more palatable to most people. And there again, I don't see a huge benefit for the community doing that. I understand they're doing it in Colorado now, and it didn't quite have the positive benefit that they were hoping for. I think they're running into more problems than they foresaw were going to take place. So I guess we maybe just sit back and see how that plays out in Colorado.
Right.
And
let them make the mistakes.
Let them make the mistakes. Yeah, the way I think they're running into more issues than they thought they were going to out there with that. So, but it's early yet.
Well, there's always the old argument that you already have enough drunks on the road. You know, people abusing alcohol, and so you're going to get that many more with marijuana. You want your school bus driver having smoked marijuana the night before or whatever.
You wouldn't. Of course, you wouldn't want them, drinking a fifth of Jack Daniels the night before either.
No, right.
But either way, so it's. I guess in those terms, your employer should be regulating that. And if you're drinking or using drugs,
right.
you get the same reaction from your employer, I suppose. But yeah, I can see the potential where there's going to be more people out and about using it because it's going to be more readily available to them. And we certainly wouldn't want people on the road
right.
high or drunk.
Right. That's good.
Surprised. Yeah.
Andy, can we go commercial? Right. Okay. We have Ashtabula Police Chief Robert Stell here. We're going to try to go to our first commercial of the day. Aha! Or not. Andy's here. He wrote it here. Hopefully he didn't speed. He lives on Seven Hills Road, so he probably wouldn't have been in Ashtabula at all. So,
Seven Hills Road is just outside of
yeah.
Ashtabula.
Okay, so if he was speeding, it's nothing you have to be concerned about.
It's not rated, yeah. It meanders into the city limits.
All right, well, let's tell me about the police levy. First of all, it didn't pass the first time, and that was probably because it didn't have the word police in it.
Well,
and what was it, in this spring was it that it passed, or was it last fall?
it was in May that it passed.
Okay.
And I think it was prior to that, it was the November prior to
right.
that when it went down. When it failed, it didn't. That's why the reason we put it back in the ballot is when it did fail at the ballot in November, it did not by a dramatic.
No, it didn't.
It was fairly close, and we looked at it and we thought, well, we didn't really put on a real significant campaign in that. There wasn't much of a ground game on that, getting the word out, and in addition to that, the word police didn't appear
right.
in the title. It was
right.
well into the body of the language, but most people don't read all the way through the fine print, as we know. And
no.
So we thought, well, geez, if we can educate the public a little better, we think we have a shot at this. We really felt that the public had a better understanding of what we were trying to do. They'd be in favor of it, and of course, when it passed by a pretty wide
right.
margin.
It
So
did.
we did a better job of getting the message out the second time.
And that must have been make everybody there happy. The fact that the police department was endorsed, by such a large number of people.
Yeah, it did. We were very pleased with that.
And the money is going to not only hire new police officers, but it's going to hire people to do dispatching at a lesser rate so that you can get more of the police officers out on the road, correct? I mean,
that's correct.
You've got people that are being paid police officer wages to do dispatching.
Yes, yeah. Over the years, as the state funding from the for local funding from the state, rather,
right.
It had been scaled back pretty dramatically.
Was it ever returned?
No, we it got cut. Yeah, and the state's trying to balance their budget. You know, that's what their goal was to do, and part of that was to reduce the amount of money they're shelling out for local governments, and that hurt the city of Asheville quite a bit. You know,
Yeah,
even
not just
coupled with the fact that, you know, our income tax revenue had declined somewhat. Businesses were laying people off. Things, just the economy is really rough right now, as we know. And you know, so we lost quite a bit of money. And over time, we were, you know, as people were retiring, they weren't being replaced because the money just wasn't there. That included dispatchers, so we had to start using police officers to do those duties. And you know, so by hiring 2 dispatchers, we're going to get 2 police officers out on the road. And it's cheaper to hire a dispatcher than it is to hire a policeman. So we end up by doing that, we're getting a total of 7 police officers back on the road by hiring 5 and the 2 dispatchers.
Okay. And so, what are you going to do with those officers?
Well, obviously we're gonna be able to do more proactive policing. You know, we'll have the manpower to do just stay on top of things a little better, have a little better coverage around the city. Instead of being just reactive to all your calls for service, you'll have more people available, and we feel that we're going to be able to be more proactive, is basically just in any number of things.
So how many officers, like on a weekend night, Friday or Saturday night, do you have on the road now, and how many will you have?
Typically, right now, we'll have 3 police officers out on the road on a Saturday night. Every once in a while, we might have 4. By adding the additional staffing, that'll bump that number up to 5, typically on the road. And you know, going from 3 to 5 may not sound like much, but that really, in our world, that's a big difference. It really is. That extra 2 guys really makes a big difference for us.
Well, if you can concentrate somebody like around Bonnywood and in that area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you've got the manpower, you can keep them in those areas more frequently, and they're more readily available when something does happen.
Are officers nervous when it's a full moon and it's a Friday night and there's only 3 of them on the road? Do they hit gimme shelter in their minds as they go out on the road?
I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'd say nervous. I don't. I've never picked up on anybody being nervous over that. Although they're maybe apprehensive about what they're going to be running into. It does seem some of us believe that, and I'm one of them, that on a full moon you seem to get more weird things going on, and I don't know what it is, and maybe we're just superstitious a little bit. But my experience has been we just get more things, and they're just oftentimes odd on nights that we have full moons. But of course, you know, aside from that, you know, the guys always want more help out on the road. You know, when they know when something bad happens, you need as many people as you can get to deal with it, and it's awful tough to do that with 3 guys. It really is.
So if there is something like a shooting or whatever, do you call people in?
We do, yeah. We call people from our department to come in, and of course there's a little bit of a lag time. They have to get dressed, get out. So the first thing we oftentimes do is we contact other local agencies to provide mutual aid. And
like Sheriff's Department?
Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol, any department in the county actually. We do the same for them. When they have something that happens, we regularly go outside the city to assist other agencies as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've got these you know, basically like a contract type thing that are called mutual aid agreements, and we've entered into them with every agency in the county. So
can you tell us some things that happened to you when you were a police officer that made you kind of wary?
Things that happened to me? Bad experiences.
Bad experiences. You can do good experiences too. We're equal here.
You know, I've been in some situations that were tough. I was in a bad fight with a guy one time with another officer, and he.
You were in a fight with another officer?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't word that properly. No, there's another officer and I were fighting with this guy. We were trying to arrest him. He started just beating up on both of us, and we ended up both going to the hospital. We ultimately got him under control and arrested him, but we were both bleeding, and beat up pretty bad. This guy was a real handful, and he had at one point he was yanking or trying to yank the gun out of the other guy's holster, and I was trying to hold it in in the holster, and that was a melee there, and that was tough. He almost got us that day, but we pulled it out finally. I was there the day that Glover was shot. I was working that day, and
You're the one that arrested Odrie Jones.
I did. I was the first one that made contact with him, and and I had him cornered at a housing complex in Metro States on 38th Street, and another officer was at that time Sergeant Madsen,
later
police chief. Yeah, he was there not too long after that, maybe 30 seconds or no more than a minute later, and then he actually came in and put the handcuffs on him.
Yeah, that was an emotional day for everybody.
Oh, it was. Yeah, that was a real tough day. Yeah.
Yeah, for those that William Glover was a police officer in Ashtabula, and he was shot to death in 1997, November of '97, and the man that did it, that was convicted, Odrie Jones, is on death row and is still making appeals, and all these years later.
Yep, he's still fighting the conviction, and so, but he's on death row as we speak, and
yeah, the video I did on that, I talked to Tom Sartini. He said unless something like the Supreme Court throws out the death penalty, he will be executed at some point. So when something, I'm not specifically this, but is there services for police officers? Like I'm thinking in Conneaut there was the man Joshua Million that beat up and raped and murdered the little girl here, and I know that they had a candlelight vigil, and you had all the police officers there with candles, and all the fire department people, all the rescue personnel, and I kind of think it was a little bit therapy for them, because it's got to be awfully hard. I remember I was talking to Howard Shetler from the prosecutor's office, and he had to show me a picture of his niece who was the same age. And it just seemed to affect everybody. Is there some kind of services for police officers that get into a situation like that, as far as counseling or anything like that?
Yes, yeah, we have different things, a variety of different programs available to us. We've had officers involved in shooting incidents, and they've received counseling and support on different levels. And anytime something like that happens, we do have things available. And we've had things like you're describing, where we've gotten together, and I know we had some things at the People's Baptist Church.
The Easter shooting.
After the Norman Avenue thing, a lot of people got together.
Yeah.
There were a lot of police officers there for that as well.
Yeah, sometimes you forget there's a lot of good in the world, a lot of good people, and you're kind of involved in the opposite.
Well, yeah, that's true, and that's what we're here for. We're not. We're here for the good people, of course, if they need something. But most of our time is spent dealing with the bad people, and that's kind of what's expected of us. And so it's easy to get an attitude that people aren't good. But we try not to get into that. We understand that just because 90% of my days I'm dealing with somebody who's being a knucklehead doesn't mean that everybody's that way. And sometimes you have to remind yourself of that. But
right. Speaking of knuckleheads, tell us about the Attorney General's program that Ashtabula has now.
Are you saying the Attorney General's a knucklehead?
Well, he is running for re-election. It is the Attorney General's office, though, right, where they bring in all of the potential bad guys. And
yeah, that's a great program. And no, I don't think the Attorney General's a knucklehead. He's actually, I met him. I've only met him once. I thought he was a great guy. He's a terrific guy. Anyway,
I got a call from a pollster. They wanted to ask me about the Attorney General.
Yeah.
One of those polls, and the guy that's running against him, who I don't even know who. I'm not familiar with the person yet, but anyway. So tell us about this program.
This is the Safe Neighborhoods Initiative, and we were approached by Mr. Bob Fiatal. He's the assistant to to the Attorney General. It's got a very long title. I couldn't even remember what it is, but he works for the Attorney General's office, former FBI agent, and he brought this program to our community. He contacted us, said, "Hey, I've got this program. We've been doing it in a few other cities in Ohio, and it's been successful with reducing the gun violence in those respective cities." So we were we were on board with it immediately, because we've had a lot of gun violence of late in the city of Ashtabula. So we did. We had a session just recently, about 2 weeks ago.
It was the day of the shooting at Fern Avenue.
It was, yeah, same day.
A little ironic there, but yeah.
And we brought in people that were identified by law enforcement as being individuals that were likely to engage in violence, had a violent past, had a history of having firearms and things of that nature. We brought the group in, and then we give them the presentation, and we talked to them. We explained to them, what they can expect from law enforcement if they shoot at people in the future, and then also social services come and say, look, and we'll help you get out of this lifestyle. So they get to see,
which is good.
They get both, this is what the punishments we owe, by the way, but we want to help you too.
Right.
And so I thought it was a really good presentation that was put on that day, and I think we got through. You never get through to everybody. I thought I could tell just by watching them that some of the people were really listening to what we were saying, and we just hope to get through to as many people as we can.
And the people that were in there, if they do commit a crime and are caught and convicted, their sentences are going to be a little harsher. They're going to be going to a federal facility.
Part of this program is that we put them on notice that, look, we're not going to mess around with short sentences and just going through the routine of charging you through locally or through the state. That we're going federally, and when you go with federal charges through the federal prosecutor's office, you're looking at a lot more time. The penalties are much stiffer, and you serve the entire time. It's not like, oh well, they give me 15 years, but after 2 years they let me out. It's when they give you 15 years, you do 15 years,
right.
And that's all there is to it. And it's not. Typically, you get sent somewhere in the country that's far away. You're not going to have your family around to come see you.
You're not going to be in Con Ed or something.
You're not. You could be out in
Wyoming or
you could be. Yeah, they say they just basically look wherever there's an open room, that's where they send you. So that's the message that they gave to these gentlemen, and we hope it that they understand that, and we see some benefit from this.
And this is okay. We're almost done, so this is a program that is not. It's only available in a few select cities, so that this has been done, right?
Yes.
It's not like all over. It is.
I think we were, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're the 5th community in Ohio that has brought this program in.
Have you seen any of these people yet?
No, I haven't seen any of them yet. And so we hope we don't.
Right.
We hope that they really understand what we were saying to them and try to turn their lives around.
Is there anything more that can be done? I don't know, maybe beyond the police department, but education-wise that schools can do, or this, I don't know, it just seems like there are certain people, certain names you see, relatives of certain people, and I looked at the record for Mr. Ruth, who's being charged in this latest. Is there any way to break all of that? I don't know. The crime, and when you get a certain age, my brother was a drug dealer, so that's what I'm going to do. Or
yeah, well, that's a tough one. I mean, if I had an answer for that, I'd probably be getting paid a lot more money to solve that problem all around the country. But I think it's a combination of things. It's what's going on in the family, and
definitely.
You've got a lot of single moms, and the kids and the moms have to work or what have you, and then the kids are left unattended, so they're from an early age are getting into mischief, and I think that's part of the problem, and how they're socialized. Of course, their economic situation a lot of times plays a role in it, and their environment. it's a combination of things. Can we do more? I'd say you can always do more, but can you fix everything? No, you need, even kids that are raised in the perfect situations oftentimes don't turn out the way their parents hoped they would. That does happen, but it seems to me that more times than not, there's a breakdown, early on in life, and they end up as adults being individuals that have a lot of contact with law enforcement.
That's a subtle way of putting that. Wasn't there some anti-drug school programs that got cut because of I can't remember what it's called, because of, I don't know, finances and stuff.
I'm sure there are. I mean, these
I know.
days,
I just heard that
everything's getting
yeah. I just heard that some of
slashed.
the anti-drug programs that just aren't there in the schools anymore. I don't know statistically if they worked or not.
Yeah, and I'm not real familiar with the school programs. I know they were available. I'm not sure how effective they were. I don't know.
It just sometimes, if I was a police officer, sometimes I think I'd be treading water because you take care of this situation and this happens over here. And
sometimes it seems that way. And there are times, and a lot of times the public doesn't really get to see it. They don't see it from our side, but we'll have times when we're able to put a lot of pressure on certain things, when we're able to maybe not completely eliminate a problem, but bury it down enough that it's not as much of a nuisance. And things like drugs and prostitution. We used to have a lot of street dealers selling on the corners. You don't see a lot of that now.
Okay.
Now, do we still have a drug problem in Ashtabula? Sure we do. Do we have a lot of street dealers hanging out in the corners like we did right out in the open? Not so much.
Okay.
We've put a lot of pressure on that. We've had some success in that area. But there's always more you can do, we don't. Of course, the ultimate goal is to eliminate the drug problem, but realistically, that's not really going to happen. But you try to keep it down to a level where it's not interfering in the lives of the majority of the people in the community.
Because I'd heard in years before that Ashtabula attracted a certain number of Cleveland area middle-aged people that wanted drugs. They kind of cruised certain areas of Ashtabula and they could find what they wanted. Maybe that's.
I haven't experienced that in particular. We do bring in people from outside the area. I see a lot of not necessarily Cleveland people, but people from surrounding communities in the county. The people that we run into that are from the larger cities like Cleveland and Buffalo and even Painesville, Youngstown. So they're oftentimes people that are bringing drugs to the community, or are involved in the other end of it, the selling, the selling and the.
They found a market for it.
Yeah, they're coming here to set up shop oftentimes, and that's the ones we're running into. And but people that are actually buying the drugs, they're usually from around here. I mean, somebody from Cleveland, I'm sure they can find drugs in Cleveland. But
it does seem, and I know you got to go, but it does seem like these crimes, there's always somebody from Cleveland involved. This latest one, it was a Cleveland man who died, and then in another one, there's a Cleveland man who's the shooter, and so there seems to be a connection between Ashtabula and Cleveland.
Yeah, and over the years that changes from time to time. Lately, it seems like there's a Cleveland element coming into the area, and they're trying to establish themselves in the drug trade. But over the years, it's been Youngstown groups.
Right.
We've had people, like I said, come out of Buffalo. We've had even people from other countries. We had a real problem with a group of people from Jamaica.
Huh.
A lot of Jamaicans coming to Ashtabula. That was about 10 years ago.
Did they bring any reggae music with them? Or?
I'm not sure. I wasn't really partying.
Well, listen, if you're from Ashtabula, or if you're from Cleveland or Buffalo, whatever, we also have covered bridges and wineries that you can visit rather than doing the drugs. Yeah.
We've got the Wine and Walleye Festival coming up.
That's right.
And that's been a huge success, and we're anticipating a huge crowd this year. And they did a really nice job last year.
I heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh yeah, it's a really nice thing that they put on.
We got the D-Day in Connie, and a couple of weeks from now will be a horde of people in here.
Oh yeah. Yep.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming in. Robert Stell, the Ashtabula Police Chief, giving us a little insight into what's going on there. And we appreciate you coming in.